Wake Up Dead Man, third movie from the Knives Out trilogy. It's out. Really love this. Actually, if you think of Glass Onion as a Bond-like movie or a Bond-like tone, this one is more of a Sherlock Holmes tone. Actually, this aligns with the first movie more than the second movie. It's really, really funny. I think dark comedy would apply here because it's funny in its own unique way. It's also meta. There are moments that they talk about Netflix and you're like, okay, yeah, you're trying to be meta here. And also there is an aspect of a book, a mystery book that plays into the story that we are being told here. Now, 2 hours, 26 minutes, very long, but it's on streaming, so it's allowed. They take their time to introduce the characters and introduce that into the flow of the story. And those are the only few moments that I struggle with the story because this is much more of a Jude story, who is played by Josh O'Connor. And I don't think it's a blank story. I don't think this is his story. I think this is some other story. Is just, as I said, is an extension. It's just brought in to investigate, but we are dropped into the story by someone else. And I thought that was a very good, compared to the last movie, that was a very, very good direction with this particular story. Again, I keep talking about tone because, even talking about Sherlock Holmes, because there's an element of religion, belief, which is common within the Sherlock Holmes story. There is an element of faith. Even the outfits, the costume design will remind you of Sherlock Holmes. There is an element of style. There's a touch of gothic to whatever is being presented. We have graves, we have churches, we have cult leaders. That's what I'm talking about. I keep going back to Sherlock Holmes. But that premise for me works very well. And the mystery, how it ties into religion and belief, is treated very well. It's treated in such a way that you might have an idea about who did it, but how you get there is totally different. There are so many twists and turns. There are so many setups that mislead you. I was misled by a lot of setups. And by the time you get to the ending, I think it ends like twice or thrice. You go like, okay, now that's the person. I get the story. This is what actually happens. And then another twist. No, you got this wrong. This person actually did this. And then you're like, oh my God. The third act is absolutely insane. If you think you know where it's going to go, you do not have any idea where it's going to go because it goes so many directions. And it kind of leads you back to one person that you were suspecting. And actually, I was suspecting because of how they were presented within the story. Because of the absurdity of some of the things that they were doing. It's like they were overselling something. And so you become a bit suspicious. And I also became a bit suspicious when I was like, why are you doing that? Anyway, Glenn Close, she's pretty awesome in this. Where the story takes her, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. There are also a lot. This is a star-studded movie, man. There's Josh Brolin, who plays a cult leader, more or less. You have Jeremy Renner. You have the guy who was the villain, Sandman from Spider-Man. You have Andrew Scott. You have Mila Kunis. So it's very star-studded, but there's a balance in the story. As a Marvel fan, I was like, oh, you should give Jeremy Renner more time. And I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense within the context of the story. But yeah, as I said, star-studded, but there's the balance. The story never loses focus. It's not character. It doesn't really focus on these big names. It's just the director understands where Rian Johnson knew exactly where to take the story, because having this kind of stars, you'll be tempted to give some people more screen time than others. But I didn't see that here. Josh Brolin, I don't know if I mentioned this, but he's awesome as the cult leader. He's fantastic. He's threatening, man. It's like Thanos with a beard, man. If Thanos was born and he became a priest, this would be it. But he's not as calm as Thanos. He's much more louder. He's far more threatening than I expected. The story in itself, in general, man, it's engaging, yes. Struggle with the first act because they were setting a lot of things up. And I was like, where is Blanc? Where is Blanc? Where is this? Where is the person whose Knives Out stories are based on? Where is he? It takes time before he gets into the scene. Actually, I would comfortably say that it takes more than 35 minutes for him to step in. Actually, for the inciting incident to happen, it takes like 35 minutes, which I did not have a problem with it because it allows, they were setting up a lot of things. They were establishing characters. They were establishing Jude as the priest who is coming from a different place into this particular new place. And I thought it worked very well in just setting up, the story. But if, let's say, for example, you've never watched Knives Out, you walk in, you find this thing going on, yeah, it will take you time to get exactly what's happening. You'll be like, this is kind of boring. Is this a religious drama? What am I watching? But when it gets going because now they have to solve an impossible mystery. And how they get to solve that is a totally different story. The performances are pretty awesome. As I said, Glenn Close for me was the favorite because I thought she plays a very unique character who does some things and you go like, why is she like this? And then at one point it all comes together. Let me just put it that way. If there was anything that I had an issue with, as I mentioned before, it's that setup period. And then, oh man, the runtime, 2 hours, 26 minutes. I was like, it's a bit long, but if they have to use that to tell us what they have to tell us, it works. Now, if you are not into absurd revelations or mysteries, yeah, you'll struggle with a few things. You'll struggle with where the story goes because there are some things that when you take time to think of them logically, you go like, yeah, I don't get that. I don't get where that was coming from. And so I don't kind of buy that. So yeah, Wake Up Dead Man is a very, very enjoyable story. It's literally this graph. I like talking about the graph where it starts off very slow, establishes the character, establishes the premise because he has to move from where he was working because he punched someone. Then he's transferred now to a different place where now he has to deal with like Josh Brolin. And that, that has to be done within the first 30 minutes. But how do I put this without spoiling something? Once someone takes a break to enter into a small room, and once you hear the third, things change because now the story just escalates. So if you saw it, what did you think about it? If I was to give it out of 5, I would give this a 4 out of 5. I had a great time. So basically that's it. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. I shall see you on the next one. Adios.